As the United States struggles to recover from the horrors of Sandy Hook shootings, many others like that as well in the recent past for them, the focus in India has now shifted to its own gun culture. The rise in the number of shooting sprees in the United States has stirred this debate on whether the gun laws in the state need to be tightened. However, the same problem exists in a much more severe form in India as well, which is grappling with an alarming increase in the gun licenses procured by individuals and a corresponding increase in shootouts as well. Now, according to a report, Indians own over 40 million guns, which is second only to the United States, and more disturbingly, 85% of them are unregistered, unlicensed weapons. Over 80,000 violations while we're talking about the country's Arms Act, which was recorded in 2009 alone. The horrors don't end here. A Mail Today exclusive story has exposed Ghaziabad to be the gun capital of India, with a number of licensed guns exceeding those of cops by a staggering 4:1 ratio. And we're not just talking about the kind of weapons here as well. Over 20,000 people have arms and 14,000 more seek licenses. It's also the city where 3,310 arms were recovered in 2012, the highest in any city across the country. Not surprisingly, the growth of gun culture across the country has resulted in a spate of high-profile shootouts across the national capital region as well within the past 1 month. Now, it started with a much-publicized shootout at the farmhouse of Ponti Chadda. These are only a few examples. Remember Ponti Chadda, the liquor baron there, along with his younger brother, dying in that shootout. Last week, a group of armed assailants storming into the ICU of a private hospital, shooting a man dead after a prior altercation as well. Just today, you talk about an incident from today. A man opened fire at the heart of the national capital, Connaught Place. Now, you talk about the laws in place. The Supreme Court even pointed out that the disturbing role of private security agencies must be played up. An observation, in fact, coming across after the Ponti Chadda firing case. The Apex Court said it was concerned by the prevailing gun culture, asked the government to take note of the incidents as well. But the Supreme Court's appeal is likely to fall on deaf ears, it seems, given the tendencies of our politicians who flout the law themselves, whether be it Porbandar MP and now aspiring MLA Vittal Bhai Radadia or former TMC man Ashish Dey. These visuals on your screens now, of course, of one of those incidents, but you see, even politicians are also equally to be tempted by the powers of a wielding of a gun. Now, this is, of course, separate incidents. Even politicians haven't gone ahead from this gun law, which they seem to think is dependent on what they do. Pictures, in fact, now of politicians of what they think. Well, Prakash Singh, former DG, UP Police, now joins us here in the studio. So, your thoughts on this current situation? AIDS menace seems to have gotten out of hand. You're talking about the US, which of course is struggling with its own gun laws, but India has a very severe problem too.
It's a huge problem which we have kept under the carpet so long. In fact, long ago, Mr. Saxena, one of the former Directors Generals of Police of UP, he said that in the state of UP there are more unlicensed weapons than weapons in the whole of United Kingdom. I mean, he pointed out this threat long ago, and this threat persists to this day, and it has been aggravated by a number of factors. One of those factors being the supply of weapons to insurgents from across the borders.
Yes.
That is one thing. Then the unlicensed weapons which we are able to manufacture within the country. And surprisingly, the Maoists have developed that expertise. I mean, there are even reports that they have been able to fabricate some rocket launchers. So it is a very serious problem which we have kept on the carpet. And yet another factor to which I would like to draw your attention is that under political pressure, with every change of regime or whatever regime is in place, under political pressure, a lot of licenses are issued to people who are maybe deserving, may not be deserving, but a whole lot of licenses are issued, and somehow weapon has become some kind of a status symbol.
But what can the administration do? Because at the end of the day, you're saying that licenses are issued depending on the whims and fancies of the regime in place, but there are lots of unregistered weapons as well. When you look at that ratio, that category, be it country-made pistols, be it hardcore proper weapons which are flouted, which people seem to be waving in the air as a status symbol, it's a problem going out of hand.
It's a problem definitely going out of hand, and as you said, apart from the licensed weapons which are granted under political pressure, there are a range of unlicensed weapons.
Yes.
I mean, like, how do you possess an AK-47 rifle? True. I mean, in the Ponti Chadda episode, that was recovered. And in fact, Ponte Chadha episode, if one were to go to the root of it, it has thrown up several important questions to which the people of India would like satisfactory answers. But nobody is interested in sort of probing the matter. I mean, we have in a petition on behalf of Lok Adhikar Manch, I have submitted a petition to the state government of UP that these are the unanswered questions arising out of Ponte Chadha episode, and these need to be probed. And one of the points raised by me was that how does he acquire AK-47? What was the source of origin? How does he get these weapons? So, I mean, this gun culture has seeped into the Indian psyche, and people want, everyone wants a gun. It's just a status symbol, and once you have it, the temptation to use it is always there. So, I mean, willy-nilly, we are moving in the direction of the problem the US is facing, and I would not be surprised if I mean, incidents of the kind which recently happened in US get replicated even in parts of India.
You think we're only a push away from this current situation going out of hand? Because when you look at the US, I mean, there are incidents, numerous, where there has been no provocation. There's been random shootings. You don't see that so much in India yet. And I say that because there is so many guns.
It's just a question of time. You see, all the ingredients are there, and it's a combustible mixture. An explosion would take place any time, and we would have a major incident. Unfortunately, we take cognizance of a problem only when, as we say, sir se pani upar aa jata.
Yes.
Only then we take cognizance of a problem when it starts getting out of hand. And when there are warnings, when there are cautionary notes, when there are advisories, we just tend to ignore it. That is, unfortunately, is the grim situation in India.
The Supreme Court also observing that, you talk about the security officials which have come forth, which are not provided by government agencies, private security agencies, which somehow seem to be possessing, assault rifles and the lot. You think this is only one way? There are numerous ways now which, the administration seems to have found out of possessing weapons, of actually brandishing them. You talk about politicians as well. So many cases where politicians show off weapons.
And you see, every happening politician is moving about with an armed guard.
Yes.
I mean, every time I travel in a train, I feel, I'm appalled. The casual manner in which they are carrying their weapons, and they are guarding somebody, inconsequential person, and he manages to get an armed guard by some political manipulation. This problem is huge in UP. To which which we are focusing here. And you have especially mentioned Ghaziabad. It's a huge problem in UP. The number of guards with political happening people who don't matter, but they have managed to get guards, and they move them, move about with those guards. So, it is a huge problem which has so many dimensions. Dimensions arising out of unlicensed weapons, licensed weapons given to undeserving people, then weapons flowing from across the borders, from China,
yes,
from Pakistan. So, all told, it's a huge problem, and the civil society has these weapons in large numbers, the insurgents have them in large numbers, and these are used against the civilian population, against the security forces, and as I said, there are even rockets in their possession.
As someone who's been part of the security apparatus as well, you've seen how, at least Uttar Pradesh functions. How do you see this, being fixed? I know, of course, there's going to be no quick fix, band-aid solutions, but there needs to be a start somewhere. The government needs to, of course, take stock of the situation, step in, because otherwise we could be the next United States.
Well, I don't see any government having the political will to arrest this trend, because everyone wants to oblige their camp followers, and so there are pressures on the district magistrates, and the district magistrates also. I know that they reluctantly grant licenses because there is pressure from the top. I was told confidentially by one of the person that if the district magistrates show reluctance in certain matters, at the conference of district magistrates, they are after the conference is over, they are taken to a separate room that you sign this paper, and if you don't sign this paper, by the time you go back to the headquarters, your transfer orders are issued. There is so much pressure on the district magistrates to do things which are irregular, which are illegal, which are unauthorized, which don't have the sanction of law.
No, you're saying that perhaps there is lack of will, lack of motivation from the establishment. You think that there is something which can come forth from the civil society as well? This gun culture, this desire to own a weapon, perhaps something needs to be addressed there too. Because at the end of the day, this is people, who want to possess a weapon, who need to flout that out for some reason. This is not, very often the case is not personal security.
You see, the civil society can only make demands. They can only articulate their wishes for a non-violent society. But ultimately, the decision making has to be taken. I mean, the decision making level, that has to have the motivation that no, this trend has to be arrested. All right, district magistrate, there will be no pressure on you. Review the existing licenses, and any fresh licenses should be granted only to the most deserving people. I mean, this direction has to come from the top, from the political level.
And only then will you be able to check those which of course go without licenses. Mr. Prakash Singh, former DG, UP Police, thanks very much for joining us, putting this current situation in perspective as well, and of course what the way ahead may well be.